Welcome back to the King Films Week 2 College Basketball Weekend Prediction Show. I'm your host AJ, and let's start with a recap of last week's locks and game predictions. So we did pretty well overall, going 4-2 and the one push in the Purdue game on the locks, and of course the postponement of the Virginia and Virginia Tech game. That was unfortunate. And in game predictions, we did very well as well, predicting 11 out of 16 games in our favor. And outside of the locks, where I went with more bold predictions, we almost cleaned house, barring the Alabama upset of Tennessee. But some notable ones we did get right: Oklahoma over West Virginia and Georgia Tech over Wake Forest. The other ones were pretty much just chalk with the rankings. So moving on to this week's 8 locks, I'm actually only going to provide 7 due to a late postponement of that LSU and Missouri game, and due to the fact that so many games have gotten postponed this week, I really just couldn't find that 8th lock, so we'll just stick with 7. I wouldn't want to give you guys any bad predictions here. So let's start with the marquee game of the weekend, Texas and West Virginia. This is a very good matchup. Texas got that huge win over Kansas last week, and give me them to beat WVU outright. West Virginia has wins over VCU, and they just got a close one over OK State this last week, and they also have the win against Western Kentucky. But that Oklahoma State game was one they really shouldn't have won. They had to come back late, and this is a much better Texas team than that Oklahoma State team. So give me Texas to cover the 1.5 point spread and to win the game outright. Another bold one here is Boston College winning outright against Virginia. For the sake of this, of course for the game picks we have Boston College, but for the sake of the spread, that's definitely a lock. This is a Boston College team that has close losses to Duke, Louisville, North Carolina State, Minnesota, and Villanova. Winston Tabbs is a great player for this team, and that record is very deceiving because this team just likes to play in close games. And even if they lose to what I consider to be an overrated Virginia team with Kihei Clark, Huff, and Hauser, I still think that Boston College will at least keep it close and cover the 7.5 point spread. Going on to the third lock of the week, we have Baylor and TCU squaring up in a highly anticipated matchup. TCU won this one last year at home, and I've got them doing it again. I like this TCU team. They have good wins over Liberty, Oklahoma State, and Texas A&M. But the important thing I think here is they are coming off a loss, and they got whooped by Kansas in this last week, and I don't think they played a very bad game. Kansas just shot the lights out, and this TCU team is going to be out for blood. Give me them to win the game, but at least cover that monstrous 12.5 point spread. Baylor has wins over Illinois and Oklahoma, that Oklahoma win coming in the last week. Maceo Teague and Jared Butler are very, very good players, and this team is scary because they rank top 6 in offense and defense. They're very well-rounded, but I see TCU taking this one. Baylor's been cruising, but TCU wants blood. They're coming off a loss. They're going to be the more desperate team at home, and they're going to take this one. Going on to the fourth lock, we've got Ohio State and Rutgers, and both of these teams are also desperate for a win. Ohio State has Lydell and Washington, and they've lost 2 out of 3 in that win coming over Nebraska, so that's not going to help their NCAA tournament hopes. And Rutgers, meanwhile, has lost 2 straight to Michigan State this last week, and they got whooped, and to Iowa last week at home. Here I see a Rutgers rebound, but if Rutgers makes this a close game, they could easily cough it up as they are 332nd in the nation in free throws. They have good wins over Syracuse, Maryland, Illinois, and Purdue. Harper, Mathis, and Young are all great players for them, and I'm taking them to take this one at home. Hopefully their free throw shooting will rebound, as if this one's anything close for them to cover, they're going to have to make some free throws. Going on to the fourth lock, we have a couple teams we haven't talked about yet. That is USC and Arizona State. USC, a great team with the Mobley brothers and some other key players, and they are coming off a huge win over Arizona. They also have a win over BYU. Arizona State is a team that hasn't really done anything this season. They were picked to win the Pac-12 in the preseason in the coaches poll, but they've fallen to 4-4, lost some marquee games to San Diego State among other teams, and they might not have some players for this game due to personal and COVID issues. So give me USC to cover the 3.5-point spread on the road, but no fans. Arizona State is famously one of the harder venues to play at with their curtain of distraction. But here's a key nugget for you at Arizona State. Teams are shooting over 80% from the free throw line this season, where it's usually 60% due to that curtain of distraction. I see USC being able to take this despite being a bad free throw team as well and covering the 3.5-point spread. On to the next game where we have Clemson and North Carolina, and I think that Clemson being an underdog here is preposterous. This is a great team. They have wins over Purdue, Alabama, and NC State, the last one being a very close win in the last couple weeks. But North Carolina hasn't really done anything this season, and they always play close to teams like Miami, and they lost to Georgia Tech. So I don't know what to say about this North Carolina team. They're not that good. They don't blow out teams. They just play very close to them, and I see Clemson winning this one in a rout. Moving on to the final game of the locks. We've got Oregon and Utah. Oregon is coming off a loss to Colorado, so they will be fired up. Give me Oregon to cover the spread here. They have wins over Seton Hall and Stanford, and Omorori, Williams, and Duarte are great players for this team, and they're still coming together. But give me Oregon here big. Another note, I'm not really sure whether this is a back-to-back and whether they'll be playing on Sunday, but for your information, this regards the Saturday game, if there is even a Sunday game. I've had conflicting news on that. On to Saturday's other notable games, and you'll notice that this is a sparse slate. So we only have 2 other notable games that I'm going to give a prediction in, and the first one is this LSU and Ole Miss game that was kind of just scheduled last minute. I don't even think there's a line yet, but give me LSU in this one. This is an LSU team that I had last week to beat Florida. They didn't, but they're still better than this Ole Miss team that I don't think is that good. They don't have really any good wins over anyone, so give me LSU to win this one. And then in the other game, we have Oklahoma and Kansas. And I respect Oklahoma, but give me Kansas here. They're rolling. They're still mad about that Texas loss last week, even though they just blew out TCU. And I know Oklahoma's going to be a bit desperate here coming off a big loss to Baylor, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Allen Fieldhouse is a hard place to win. And give me Kansas big. Finally, on to the Sunday slate where I will give my 6 game predictions. So in the marquee Minnesota versus Iowa game, this is a rematch of a game that actually happened earlier in the season. Minnesota won at home, so it is counterintuitive to think that they're going to win again, especially at Iowa's home stadium. And Iowa's been playing great in these last couple games. They have Garza and Weiskamp and McCaffrey. These are great players. They have a great offense and wins over Rutgers, Northwestern, Purdue, and UNC. This could be the best team in the Big Ten. The reason I have a Minnesota team with wins over Iowa, Michigan State, St. Louis, and Ohio State here is because I don't really want to be left behind. I've been high on Minnesota this whole season, and even though I think that Iowa might win, I'm going to lock in Minnesota here, maybe cough up a unit, but if they do get this upset, I don't want to be the one that picked Iowa because I've been on Minnesota's side this whole season, and I will give you guys that 8th lock right here. If the line comes out in Minnesota is +8 or better, so they could be +10, +12, etc., I'm giving that a lock. I'm telling you guys in advance, give Minnesota a lock here. They will play close. They're a desperate team right now, coming off a big loss to Michigan, but they will play good in this game and keep it close. This should be a great game on that Sunday slate. Now on to Maryland and Illinois. Maryland has that win over Wisconsin, and Illinois has wins over Duke, Minnesota, IU, and Northwestern, but that was in huge comeback fashion. They were down huge at the half and only allowed Northwestern to score 13 points after halftime. I don't think Illinois is that good, but they're good enough to beat this Maryland team. On to the third game, we have Indiana and Nebraska, and Indiana has wins over Providence and Stanford, and Jackson Davis is a great player for this team. They're coming off a heartbreaking loss to Wisconsin in which they took them to double overtime, and then this Nebraska team is just not that good. Give me IU by a landslide, maybe 20 to 30 points here. On to the fourth game, we've got Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. And Notre Dame just has not rung a bell for me this season. They are just not that good. No good wins. They've just lost to the majority of the ACC slate so far. And Virginia Tech has good wins over Villanova and Clemson, and then that close loss that could have gone either way against Louisville just last week. Give me Virginia Tech in this game. And then let's go on to this Loyola Chicago and Drake matchup. It's very intriguing, but after last week when I said that Drake would beat a bad Illinois State team, and they did, now they've started to get the hype. But I just know that this Drake team is not good. I mean, neither is Loyola Chicago. Neither team has good wins, but Drake, since this is a back-to-back, I guarantee you that they will lose one of these games, and I'm saying it's going to happen in the first one on Sunday. Loyola Chicago is going to bring it, and they are going to win this game. It could be close. I don't really know what to say. Both of these teams are pretty bad, but give me Loyola Chicago to upset unbeaten Drake on the road. Finally, we've got a Big East matchup, Providence and Xavier. Providence has good wins over TCU and Seton Hall. David Duke averages 20 points a game. This is a good Providence team, but I think they will come up short against a good Xavier team with a win over Oklahoma. They've got Fremantle and Scruggs in their game, and those two are good for 30 a game. Give me Xavier to win this one here. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment your own predictions below or how you feel that mine did, and thank you for watching.